Hi, this is Nanette Hosenfeld with the Great Basin Seasonal Outlook for January through April. So looking at temperature and precipitation over the past 30 days, you can see temperatures across most of the Great Basin have been pretty close to normal, maybe a little below normal across the central and southern part of the Great Basin and a little above normal further north. Looking at precipitation, which is the image on the right, pretty much the entire area has seen below normal precipitation. Southern Nevada and the Arizona Strip has been the most impacted by this. It's been the driest in those areas. Taking a longer look, looking at the water year precipitation, which began October 1st. Again, really similar picture with incredibly dry conditions across the entire Great Basin. And again, looking at the very driest conditions across the southern part of the Great Basin. With that lack of precipitation, it's no surprise that our current snowpack is looking pretty dismal. Almost the entire Great Basin is far below normal as far as snowpack for the time of year. The only exception to that is the higher elevations of central Nevada, which is close to normal, but everywhere else, as you can see on the map, is in the oranges, which is below normal. Following with the lack of precipitation, you can also see that the soil moisture anomalies show very dry conditions. The EDDI, or the Evaporative Demand Drought Index, is another way of looking at short-term drought. This is the 1 month, look at the 1 month eddy categories, and again, the southern part of the Great Basin is really standing out with how dry things are down there. Further north, where we have seen a little more precipitation, you can see that those areas are not falling into the drought category. Taking a look at the drought monitor and the drought outlook, similar to what we were looking at with the eddy in the previous slide, you can see the southern parts of the Great Basin are in the highest drought, with exceptional and extreme drought across much of Utah and Nevada. Looking forward through February at that drought outlook, unfortunately, it's not looking like there's much relief in sight. The entire Great Basin, with the exception of portions of Idaho, is expected to see drought persist or intensify. So it's not the greatest news there. The 10-hour fuel moisture, or fine fuel moistures, are pretty high. Those are the smaller fuels that do respond to the cooler weather and the precipitation that we have seen. But as we move into the 100 and the 1,000-hour fuel moisture categories, you can see again the southern part of the Great Basin showing up with the driest fuels. So we've looked at the drought, the weather, the fuels, and the snowpack. We'll discuss what's happening from here, kind of what we're looking at moving forward. So the first thing we always look at is any large-scale global weather patterns we may be in, and it's looking like we are going to continue to move towards a La Nina pattern. This is the forecast, all the different possibilities moving forward, but the general consensus among these models is that we will see La Nina continue to strengthen into the spring. What La Nina means is typically more precipitation across the southern part of the United States. That typically impacts the southern half of the Great Basin, and drier further north, which would impact the northern part of the Great Basin. The good news with that is that the southern part of the area is where we need the most precipitation, and looking at the 8 to 14 day outlook from the Climate Prediction Center, they are calling for above normal precipitation across much of the Great Basin, including the southern part of the area that really does need to see that precipitation. Then looking a little further out, for the month of January, unfortunately in the longer term, looking like there is a potential for below normal precipitation across the south and above normal temperatures, and then that longer term outlook still keeping conditions dry across the southern part of the Great Basin and warmer than normal. So not looking so great through April. So with all those things in mind, everything we've looked at, we'll move on to our outlook forecast. For January through April, we're just lumping them all together in this one map because we are expecting normal fire activity through April. This is a quiet time of year, typically not much fire activity through April. The only exception to that could be if we see some isolated periods of higher fire potential as weather systems cause increased winds. We are seeing very dry fuels continue across the south, and so there could be some brief periods of higher fire potential with windy periods, but overall looking at normal fire potential through April. And that's it. If there are any questions, please feel free to contact us. Our information is on the screen, and you can also find us on Twitter. Thanks.